Director of the Innovation and Leadership Studies program here in the College of Engineering. And I want to speak to you a little bit about the minor in Innovation and Transformational Change, which importantly is open to every major on campus. And the core principle behind this minor is thinking about driving change through the use of innovation science. And I'll explain a little bit more about what that is as we dive in. A key frame for this minor is recognition that making progress on any of the complex challenges that we might face in a business, in our research, or even for society as a whole, require really new ways of thinking. Many of the grand challenges that we currently speak of and frame as grand challenges aren't actually new. They've been around for decades, and we still haven't been able to solve them. And that sort of speaks to the idea that the methods and approaches that we've been using to date perhaps aren't as effective as we might need. And that opens the door to begin to think differently about how we might be able to pursue some of these problems. And importantly, whether you're thinking about the pursuit of food security for a whole country or developing a global rollout of sustainable packaging for a Fortune 500 company, we're doing something really ambitious like creating a new economic sector, like the work of the DOE right now focused on developing the blue economy, which is anchored in the development of marine renewable energy. All of these types of problems involve many unknowns, many dozens of stakeholders, and often involve conflicting goals. And so if you will, they're not really rules-based problems where we can simply articulate the problem and solve it. And most of the challenges we encounter in the future are this way. And even in business is recognizing more and more that they're operating in a complex ecosystem. And as a result, these types of techniques that I'll be speaking about that are incorporated into the minor are relevant regardless of the sector in which you might want to operate. Ultimately, when we think about this type of content, it raises a couple of interesting possibilities. And one of them is that in order to address these challenges, we really need insight from a wide array of disciplines. And I'm sure you've all heard about the importance of your electives and how important it is to get different perspectives on a problem. We've spent years taking a look at the act of innovating that drives high impact. So impact really being something pertaining to a change of the paradigm or worldview on a problem, reach across the notion of individuals to groups to society, influence on dimensions like health, environment, culture, or even economics, and then of course change that has longevity. And in order to achieve that kind of an outcome, we need insight from fields like anthropology, from perspectives from philosophy and from policy. We need perspectives from design thinking. We need it from technology development and technology history. And if we get far enough along, we might begin to employ concepts from entrepreneurship or extension or even social entrepreneurial fields coupled with social psychology. And this is regardless, again, of sector. And so what the minor program is really about is we're connecting electives across these different subject areas with a very specific focus on how to drive innovation with impact. And that, if you will, gives a thread to the electives that you might be taking so that you come away with a capability that few people have. Importantly, we can learn from all of those different fields and use the knowledge in those spaces to try to study solutions that have addressed other major complex challenges in the world and achieved high impact. And some examples that we've looked at closely in the development of the program are the advent of things like GPS, the creation of the transistor, or the creation of anesthesia. We've also looked at conceptual innovations like the notion of crowdsourcing or the concept of insurance, which in and of itself is a very, very unique innovation. And interestingly, technical and conceptual innovations both follow similar patterns when they achieve high impact. We've tried to understand what they are more deeply so we can incorporate that into the curriculum that's in the minor. One of the things that we find is that these patterns take several forms and each of them is distinct. And I'm sure some of you have seen different words used in the context of innovation, like disruptive innovation or radical innovation or incremental innovation. All of the words that I have on the screen here are just a subset of the many what we call motifs of innovation. And very importantly, each type of innovation is different. It's very distinct, and they work in specific contexts. And if you mismatch the type of innovation with the type of context, your odds of success are very low. Whereas if you can find the right type of innovation for the right context, you have a much higher chance of success. And so we really try to be proactive about innovating and drive it through strategic intent. The patterns that we've uncovered on innovation highlight different dimensions of performance. Things like the characteristics of an offering that might result in adoption. Things like understanding the way that competitors in a marketplace might react to something that we do, or looking at the influence of our innovation on the financial trajectory of a market or the investment that might be required to make it happen. And ultimately, these perspectives can help you find your way through the uncertainty that's inevitable when tackling really complex problems, and again, increase your odds of coming out with a solution that has a better chance of being adopted and therefore of having the impact that you hope for. In this regard, our work is focused on trying to transition innovation from what many years ago would have been considered to be serendipity, a situation where we just brought great people together, tried to have them think of ideas, and if we had really good talent in the room, maybe come up with a good idea, to a point where we're really seeing that there's patterns that we can recognize that are transferable into a discipline, into rigorous approaches that can help us achieve impacts with greater significance and likelihood. And so, if you will, we're on a journey to science on that front. Now, I don't think it'll ever become strictly rules-based, but the more we can begin to use heuristics, use analogy, use pattern recognition, the more likely it is we can increase our odds and therefore decrease the risk of innovating. In this regard, innovation is really a source of leadership in almost any domain you might think about pursuing. In industry, innovation is the source of differentiated competitive advantage. It's how we think about creating new offerings that will put us in a good position relative to our competition. In academia, it's about thought leadership and scholarly excellence. How do we get our research and our thought leadership to be, if you will, on the cutting edge of what's going on? And in the nonprofit sector, innovation might literally just be developing a sustainable solution to the intractable problems that we try to conquer. In many cases, unfortunately, the challenges are so great that oftentimes we haven't been able to create sustainable solutions. And so innovation can help us in any of these domains. This has been recognized by quite a few people. If we look at national governments across the world, they are now creating official roles focused only on innovation because they recognize the connection between innovation and their economies. We also see scholarly journals like the International Journal of Innovation Science that are really beginning to see the rigor that's possible behind innovation, so you can really have more repeatable outcome. And then very importantly, there's been this notion of the rise of a chief innovation officer. And this is just a small set of logos here for companies that currently have chief innovation officers. And I've been in this space for about 19 years. And I can say that in about 9 or 10 years ago, there were 0 chief innovation officers. And now they're really showing up as organizations realize how important innovation is as a function in the company. To this end, with this in mind, we've really tried to drive the development of what we call the Innovation and Leadership Studies program. It's anchored on a research team that focuses on innovation science, and that is the study of the methods, tools, and approaches and mindsets of innovative individuals and organizations. So we're really trying to say, how can we innovate better? And as we learn ways to do that, we use that insight in collaboration with industry, with foundations, and with different academic programs to test it and to refine it so that it becomes more and more effective. And when we feel good that some of this content is really working quite reliably, we move it into the educational program and it becomes part of the minor. And so the minor coursework is bookended by courses that are anchored in these insights. Ultimately, we've really amassed a large array of research-derived insight into innovation that's published in a whole host of peer-reviewed locations. And they're quite dispersed. And as a result, not many people know about all of these different pieces. But as you begin to learn these different concepts that are published in different disciplinary journals, you start to see that they have relevance to almost any problem that you might work on. And as a result, because of this insight, our members of the minor and also members of our research team have worked together on a whole host of different collaboration opportunities with real-world organizations, such as the DOE, which is the Department of Energy, the National Renewable Energy Lab. We've worked with several Fortune 500 companies. We also are very core to a large grant that's working right now in partnership with USAID on international development. We've also worked with smaller local NGOs in different parts of the country. And so regardless of the interest areas, we've been able to find links between innovation science and the problems that any of these organizations pursue, allowing the students that are involved to really get exposure to these complex challenges and to learn how they operate in those different environments. This view of high impact innovation has helped us shape the minor in innovation and transformational change. And I'll emphasize it's a pretty comprehensive minor, so it's 18 credits. But importantly, those 18 credits can typically be fulfilled while pursuing the elective requirements of your major. We've worked quite hard to put a wide array of courses into the program that fit different majors' requirements as you go through. But key is the left and right-hand side of this figure. On the left side is a very initial course, which is Fundamentals of Innovation Theory and Practice. That's ENGR 305. And that course is actually offered this coming fall. It's a great way to get started in the minor. Once you come in with that course and you have the fundamental background, We then take courses of your choosing from a set of about 90, like I said, to focus on how to design holistic solutions, how to motivate change in an environment, how to achieve financial sustainability so that your ideas really have longevity, and then importantly, how to contextualize all this work to an area that you care about. And that can be done by taking a look at certain courses that are in your areas of interest. Once you've made it through that buildup of foundational skills, you then really put it to work in one of three capstone opportunities. One is focused on breakthrough thinking, and that really is for really complex socio-technical problems. Another is more of an entrepreneurial track where you're worried more about business and strategy. And the third is multidisciplinary engineering design, which of course applies to a lot of these domains as well, but also has a specific emphasis on more technical fields. And so if you will, there's a lot of opportunity to tailor your path through this program and really apply the insights and methods to problems that you're worried about. So to get started on the minor, the best place to start is this fall in the course called ENGR 305. Like I said, it's open to all majors on campus. It also is designated as an honors course. You don't have to be in honors to take it, but you can take it if you're in honors and get honors credit for it. And that course really is the gateway into the minor. Of course, if your schedule has conflicts, you don't necessarily have to take it first. It just could be very helpful as a way to ground your perspectives on innovation and get the most value out of all the other electives that you might take. So if you're interested in this particular area of study, you could take a look at our website, and there's a link here. You could reach me at innovation@purdue.edu. And again, my name is Joe Sinfield, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about the minor program or its areas of focus. I'll bring us back just to that page in case there's any questions.
QR code, and if there's any last minute questions, can do that. Uh-oh.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. This is really interesting.
You too. Thank you. That was
Thank you.
interesting.
So much. Andrew, I guess I'll sign off here.
Sounds good. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Good luck with your studies.
Thank you.